This is Fbg.Live. From touchdowns and concerts to weddings and Christmas parades. Live video production right here in Fredericksburg, Texas. Live, local, here for you. Fbg.Live, capturing your moment for generations to enjoy.
The community in Fredericksburg is growing, and we know that people choose to live here, and for very good reason. It's important that we have resources in place so that people can take care of themselves, so that our economy can keep moving, so that this community can continue to thrive. And this is our opportunity to help them stay well and stay part of the community as contributing members.
Please join us in keeping Fredericksburg and Gillespie County special. Be Texas friendly. Share the road. Put litter in its place. Respect private property. And protect our dark skies. Thank you for caring about our community.
We'll go ahead and get started here shortly if you could find a seat. Good morning, everyone. We'll go ahead and get started. I see the sun is in some people's eyes. So thank y'all again for being here. This is Coffee with the City Manager for December of 2025, so the last one. Hope everybody had a good Thanksgiving. I don't want to talk about any football games. But Clinton wasn't able to make it, kind of a last minute change. He has to deal with the personnel matter at City Hall. So he sends his regards. We've been joking about this time of year, we should start seeing a slowdown, and we really never do. So we're going to try to work a little better next year and try to reschedule some meetings and try to free up this time for staff and the public, just so we don't have so much going on. But it is a busy time of year. So I just wanted to touch on a few of the meetings we've had recently, some things we have coming up. Then we're going to receive a report from Andrea Schmidt. She'll kind of talk about our special events for next year. And then Chief Bizzle will give a report on the battery energy storage systems. I know y'all have probably heard about those. Right now, the only two we're aware of are being proposed outside the city limits, but that does impact city services potentially. So he'll give a quick report here at the end of this presentation, and then the council will receive a report at the December 16th meeting. So I'd like to take a moment and recognize Councilmember Tony Klein and Councilmember Todd Edson. They're in the back by the Christmas tree. So thank y'all for being here this morning. Starting off on the joint meeting. I actually had two joint meetings yesterday. So the first one at 9 a.m., the city council met with the executive team from the CVB. That included their executive board. They met for about an hour and 20 minutes. Really good open discussion, just kind of talking about the goals of the CVB. Of course, they talked about the search for the new executive director or president of the CVB. They reported that they're hoping to have that person in place by April of next year. So it's a nationwide search. There's a lot of interest. So we're really confident they'll find a good person for that position. We also talked about funding. Again, there's been a lot of reports about the city cutting the budget for CVB. Really, that's not the case. There's a lot of misunderstanding there. The city reduced the contribution to the CVB, but our understanding was that it really wouldn't affect their operating budget because they have a healthy reserve. So hopefully we kind of clarified that. We talked about funding moving forward. I think the goal is to have kind of a multi-year agreement, so everyone is on the same page. The CVB understands what kind of funding they'll see, not just in the coming year, but future years. So again, a very good discussion. We'll need to continue to have those. The county is also involved in that discussion. Unfortunately, they had a commissioner's court meeting at that same time, but we'll follow up with the judge and make sure everybody's on the same page. Jenny Stout just walked in, so thank you for being there, Jenny. That was a great meeting. Then after that meeting wrapped up, we had another special meeting with the council to talk about the strategic plan. I know Clinton's touched on that a number of times at this event. This is just a plan that could be put in place similar to the comprehensive plan. It's kind of a guidebook to follow. Looks at anywhere from short-term projects, in the 6-month to 2-year time frame, out to 3 to 5 years, and then 5 years to 20 years. And again, it's just a guide. The council had some questions like, who is this really intended to benefit? And after Clinton and I talked about it, honestly, it's really for staff and the general public. The council fills us in on their goals and priorities constantly. We're constantly dealing with that. They're hearing from the public, wanting to address issues. What we talked about doing is taking those comments, looking at all our master plans, and putting those in one tracking document. So really, that would be the intent. The council has potential to change every year with the election. There's potential for new council members every year. So again, this would be staff and the public's overall guide of where the city's headed. And then as new council members come on board, they can see what the previous council's goals were and then we kind of roll that into the plan moving forward.
Hi.
So again, that was a good discussion. Schedule-wise for that, we would like to have that in place by April. So I think Clinton had proposed special meetings in January, February, and March. So it's going to be a busy start to the year, but again, the goal is to have that in place by April. So I'm sure he'll touch on that at a future coffee. As far as the meeting on the 16th, it's a pretty loaded agenda as well. Just running through my notes, we have Sonoma Phase 2, which I know some of y'all are familiar with. That's the 39 acres on Holmig Lane that's being proposed as a single-family development. That will come back before the council for formal action. There's an annexation request, a land use and zoning designation, and then also an annexation request related to the roadway itself, Holmig Lane. So what's being proposed is annexation of the development property, the 39 acres, as well as that section of Holmig that would front the development. And Clinton did have a meeting with the development team and some of the adjacent property owners. I think that was late last week. Lengthy meeting, still a lot of questions and concerns, but that will all be presented to the council and hopefully they will make an ultimate decision. Also at that December 16th meeting, the Chamber of Commerce will give a report on the 2025 Food and Wine Festival. They will also talk about their plans for the 2026 event. I think they're looking to add a restaurant week at some point next year, so should hear from them on that. New health department fees will also be considered. Those are being updated in response to some changes in the state law. Pretty minimal changes. They shouldn't affect any restaurant operators in the area, but those need to be updated. We've also touched on the leaf and brush collection fees. So as y'all are aware, leaf collection is currently underway. We anticipate that going through the end of January, Chris? Is that typical? Mid-January. Okay. So this discussion on fees will not impact that service, but like we've talked about, the council is considering an additional charge for leaf and brush collection. Right now, the numbers that's been discussed and the actual expense to the city is around $10 a month. So the council will hear from staff on that and then make a determination on those fees. As I mentioned, we'll also receive a report from Fire and EMS on the best proposals. Again, those are in Harper, and then there's one near Willow City. I think it's referred to as the Marshall Springs development. There's also a number of executive session items that will go through with the council. I don't believe formal action is proposed for any of those. That will just be an executive session discussion with the city council. I think that covers the council meetings. Lindy Siegel did reach out to us this morning. He wasn't able to attend, but he did want me to mention that the food pantry is holding a food drive. That's at the food pantry on Highway Street. They're accepting donations on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays after 1 p.m. And then also, it's been reported here, but the Santa Fly-In is December 20th at the airport, just after noon. So again, that's a pretty big event, a lot of kids out there. So if you're able to make that, we'd love to see you there. With that, I think I will turn it over to Andrea Schmidt. Again, she's going to touch on all the special events we have coming up.
There we go. Let me walk over here so y'all don't have to look into the sun. Good morning, I'm Andrea Schmidt with the Parks Department. I wanted to go through some of our events that we have from here in a few weeks, all the way through the pool's opening this coming summer. But before I get into the list, I wanted to mention last night we had our second annual Gingerbread House Decorating Contest. It was sold out. We have just enough room for 36 kids at the John Klein Room, and it was sold out for the second year in a row. So it's a really neat event, and we're planning to try to expand it next year so we can get more kids involved and families involved. So we'll probably move it out here to the Pioneer Pavilion. So if you're interested in that, look for that next year, and hopefully we can get some more people involved in that. So I wanted to start off, we've got our countdown to 2026 coming up on December 31st. That takes place at Market Square, starts at 3 o'clock. It ends at 6:30 with a ball drop. The electric department and the fire department help out with that. It is a free event for the most part. All the activities, the bounce houses, all of that is free for families and the kids. There will be food and drinks for sale and possibly some merchandise. So it's a really neat event. We always have to keep our fingers crossed, though, for good weather. We've been very lucky here the last few years, and hopefully that luck will hold out again this year. Then our next event takes place in January. It's our Kid Fish. We purchase rainbow trout from Texas Parks and Wildlife, and they will come out the week before the event and stock an area beneath Pavilion 4. That event, again, is also free. It starts at 9 a.m. and lasts until noon. We will have a few fishing poles available. You're free to bring your own. If you are 17 or older, you will need a fishing license. And then we'll have a little bit of bait at Pavilion 4. So we hope kids and families can come out for that. The next event takes place in February. It is our Daddy-Daughter Dance on February 6th, 6:30 to 8:30 at the Pioneer Pavilion here at Lady Bird Park. Tickets, that is a paid event, so tickets go on sale actually today. So if you're interested in having a stocking stuffer, stop by Park Headquarters, or you can get on the city's website and purchase your tickets for that event right now. Next event is our Touch a Truck. It takes place on March 26th from 3:30 to 6:30. That event takes place at Market Square. It's a really neat event. All of the departments are out there. They'll have activities that involve their departments. They'll have some of the heavy equipment. Sanitation will have vehicles out there showing kids how they pick up trash. Electric department does demonstrations to show how they handle things. So it's a really neat event. It's free. There will be food and drinks for sale. Clear River normally shows up and they give out free ice cream, so hopefully they'll be able to do that again this year. We have a few other smaller events that we don't have all the details for yet, but the Maybaum art contest, that was done for the first time last year. We asked the public to paint or recreate the Maybaum pole at Market Square, and then we had public come and judge the paintings that were turned in at John Klein Room. We're planning on doing that again. We work with the Gillespie County Historical Society on their Founders Day event, so that'll be included as part of that. Splash Pad, we're already starting to work on swimming pool and splash pad operations for next year. Splash Pad will open the first Saturday in May, which is May 2nd. And then the pool's opening day, we've got a little bit of a tentative schedule right now. We normally try to open the Saturday before Memorial Day, but the high school is not graduating and closing out until the week after Memorial Day. So we're going to do our best to still open that day, but it's going to depend on lifeguard availability since the kids have so many activities still going on at the end of school. If for some reason we don't open that Saturday, we will open the following Saturday, which is May 30th. And on that note, if you have any teenagers that are looking for a great summer job, starting pay is $20 an hour, have them reach out to Park Headquarters, and we can get them information on training and prerequisites for our American Red Cross classes. And then the last thing I wanted to mention, this has come up a few times about the country's 250th anniversary next year. We have been working on some different activities for next year. We did include a little bit more money in the budget, hopefully to do some enhancements for the 4th of July parade. We also have a public art activity we're working on, as well as several other events, but you'll see more information as those are finalized come out after the first of the year. So at this point, do y'all have any questions? Yes, Tony. The Glockenspiel, that is another project that's underway. That's the clock tower that the Pedernales Creative Arts Alliance, Market Square Redevelopment Commission, and the city are working together on. They are fundraising right now. If you're interested in more information, we do have a website that you can get to either from the city's website or the PCAA to find out more information on that. Are there any other questions? Okay.
Thank you, Andrea.
Thank you very much.
Just to clarify, lifeguards are not limited to teenagers either. So if any of y'all are interested, we'll take you. Next up, I'd like to ask Chief Bizzle to come up and talk about the battery energy storage systems. I know this is a controversial topic, and the county's involved in a lawsuit. So I just want to let everybody know the city and the county are working together. We're starting to talk to the school districts as well. There are a lot of concerns. This is new technology. These are happening all over the country. I think, is it 1,000 in the state? So they're all over the place. A lot of local governments are dealing with this. So we're trying our best to stay ahead of this, but it is an ever-changing situation. So with that, I'll turn it over to Chief.
Okay. Can you hear me now? Okay, good morning, everyone. Merry Christmas. You know, this is my favorite time of year because all the kids are very positive, they're not in trouble, and we as adults should probably, take advantage of that ourselves. So this is a very good time of the year, and my favorite time of the year. So what I wanted to do this morning is, number one, for those of you who don't know, if you see a whole lot of smoke, and I'm talking about a whole lot of smoke north of town, the Enchanted Rock is doing prescribed burns at that location. It is not a really big fire. I can tell you it looks like the whole north side of the county is on fire, but it's not. They are actually doing controlled burns out there on the new property. It's actually, all of this is occurring in Llano County because when you go to Enchanted Rock, it kind of splits Gillespie and Llano County. So that is taking place through this week. So if you see a lot of smoke, that's what it is. And they will call us if they need us, I'm sure. Hopefully they don't. Okay, so I wanted to take an opportunity this morning to talk to everyone about the best systems that are going in statewide. These are battery energy storage systems. My understanding of all of this is that it is a program that the state, when you look at ERCOT, which is our state grid system, electric grid system, there have been a lot of brownouts, and the days where we use a lot of electricity is to keep everybody in electricity. And so they are coming up with these new technology, new systems that are all battery energy associated next to substations. So these go in actually next to substations. The intent is to supplement the electric grid system throughout the state. And again, as Garrett said, there are close to 1,000 of these going in just in the state of Texas, not just in Gillespie County, but in the state of Texas. So one of the questions that was posed to me is, what resources would the city have to offer up should there be an emergency in one of these facilities? Now, right now, I will tell you we have no plans from anyone. We don't have any actual drawings or anything of what any of these may look like, other than the fact that, other than we know that one is being proposed, and I'm saying proposed, in Harper, relatively close to a school, and the other is being proposed out between Fredericksburg and Willow City. So if you take Fredericksburg Fire EMS, or if you take the whole county departments, what everyone has to understand is that we help each other. So we would not be a primary responder to this. However, we would send all the resources that we needed to send to a situation should it occur in one of these facilities. So you say, well, what's the danger? Well, the danger from our research has been the smoke plume, meaning that it does emit toxic chemicals into the air, we don't actually put these out. We let them burn out. Now, but that doesn't mean we won't use water, because if there's something next to it, or we have to protect exposures that are around a fire should it occur, and then we would be putting water onto, and so then you have the potential of runoff from the water that we're actually spraying onto, and we would have to contain that while we were there. That would be with dump trucks coming in and dumping into wherever this may be flowing. So that's kind of our procedure. This is essentially a hazmat incident, that will tell you. Now, I've been asked many a times, so are you prepared? We're as prepared as we can be. We have all the protective clothing that's associated with responding to these. We have the trucks. We would have to haul in water, especially in rural areas. We do that regularly for house fires or structure fires or any major fires that we have. And so this is a team effort from all the departments in the county, should we have an incident. I will tell you that what our objective is to stay upwind, out of the smoke, and prepare an operation plan that would take care of these should something occur. So as we go through our actual response and we look at the city resources that may be utilizing these, of course we have the fire EMS piece of it. We have the police department for evacuations. We have emergency management that would probably, depending on the situation. And these can be, I will tell you, from our research, these can be 1 day to weeks because they essentially have to burn out, depending on the severity of the situation. And there's all varying degrees of this. We would have our Parks and Recreation Department from an evacuation. If we had to do any type of evacuation with these, then they would have to manage the shelters should we have to shelter anybody once we evacuate them. And then the Emergency Operations Center would probably come into play. So, I'm sorry, I got to flip my page here. Again, we have the initial assumptions which I mentioned, and again, that's an assumption because we don't actually see any plans or we don't have any actual information that these are actually going in other than the proposals that we've heard. So again, it's a coordinated effort countywide. None of these are being proposed in the city limits. So again, it's a mutual aid from our perspective to neighboring departments. Now you say, well, what resources? Well, we're going to send an engine crew. We're going to send the EMS crews that are needed, and we would be sending whatever the personnel that we needed. So once we send our people out, then we have to backfill the fire station. So if something else happens in our city or in our response area, then, which we do regularly on any major emergency, we backfill our stations with people. So there are potentially some overtime costs that are associated with this should we have an incident with this nature. For the most part, we're talking about volunteers. They get nothing from the perspective, but our full-time people, we would have to backfill to make sure that our city is taken care of while we were at that location, which we do regularly. And then when it comes to our protective gear, we have the protective gear at this point that keeps us protected. Now, I will tell you that if for whatever reason we get into the smoke or we have to initiate a rescue or that smoke gets into our gear, we have to throw it away. because there's no way of cleaning it once that product gets into the materials that we wear. And if you talk about, well, what is, cost is associated with that, it's about $10,000 per responder, because we have our SCBAs, and then we have our full bunker gear that we wear. We have to be breathing air in these scenarios, and we can't get into the particulates that may be falling from the sky once something like this occurs. Obviously, we would have our PIO associated in these situations to give the community information as we see it when we're on the scene and responding to these. So you say, well, are you prepared? We're prepared as we can be. We do this every day. Maybe I look at this wrong, but if you look on the highways today, there are 10,000 gallons of gasoline that travels down these roadways every single day, and they come right through Fredericksburg, right through downtown. That's a hazardous materials incident. This is a hazardous materials incident. It is new technology. We are learning things every day from it. The failure rates of these are, they say 9% at this point and projected to get down to 2%. I don't know what that means, because the failures could be different things. They are supposed to have someone at these facilities and monitoring them on a regular basis. They are monitored off-site regularly. Should alarms go off, and they would all be built to whatever the fire code is in the county. So with that, I will open it up to any questions that you may have.
If y'all can wait, we are streaming this live, so please raise your hand and we'll get a mic to you so the audience at home can hear you.
Start with Tom.
Thank you, Chief. Tom Musselman.
Yes, sir.
So I have a question. I don't know how many people were in this room when the turkey plant burned and released the ammonia cloud that drifted over to the high school that shut the high school down. The best issue is we're close to another high school, another school district. So is there this, I don't see this as a county issue, the best is a county issue or a city issue. I see this as a community issue. And since we have we basically have a community fire department that supports each other.
Yes, sir.
Is it possible to fight any kind of fire at a BESS facility with foam? Okay. And if it is possible, then how much does it cost the community to have that foam available to the departments? And is the company that's building the BESS, and I'm sure they're doing this out of civic mindedness and the goodness of their heart, and surely they are not doing it for any kind of potential capitalistic profit that they might get from buying electricity at a time period when it is low in price and then reselling it to the state of Texas consumers when it's high. I'm sure that would be nothing that they would think about doing. But what about, can you fight it with foam? My primary concern is you got kids and you've got the possibility of contamination of water supplies, and I would like to know how involved the builders of this are going to be in this project.
Okay, so just so that everyone knows, when we use foam, we use water, because we have to mix the foam with the water. So the problem with this product is the fact that it's electricity. You don't put water on electricity. If we go to a pole burning, we're not going to squirt it out with water until we know that the pole is dead and the power company has turned the electricity off. That's the only time then we would start to spray water. We would let that burn until the power company got there and cut the electricity. So the answer to that at this point, and they may develop a foam at some point in the future, at this point the answer is no. Yes, sir.
Thank you, Chief. Leo Tynan. Are you and other, especially rural community fire departments, getting any kind of significant guidance from the state? Anything in terms of resources, anything in terms of practical training for your people to actually, practice putting out these kind of fires? Also, the evacuation, how do you go about determining, it seems to me, a smoke cloud in the middle of the night, unless you got a lot already laid out, it's going to be, it kind of reminds me of July 4th in Kerrville. So are you getting the help you guys need to really address this issue?
Well, so if you look at our job, our job is dangerous just to begin with, right? And so we go into these situations. So if you talk about the plume, what we do regularly on any hazmat incident is we have an ERG, which is Emergency Response Guide, that we look up the product. We can, on the scene, we can tell you what the plume is with the weather conditions and the wind blowing and all of those things. So we know, we pretty much, that would be the first thing that we would do when we got to the scene, is we would evaluate the wind direction, the speed, the product that's being involved, and then we would develop that on site, and those would be the areas that we would immediately start evacuating. So we have the capabilities of doing that now. From a training perspective, I would tell you TEAX, Texas Engineering Extension Service with Texas A&M University, they are probably the lead agency with this new technology and the training piece of it. We try to keep up with that as best we can, and so everyone has to understand this isn't the first time. We have battery operated vehicles currently, okay, that are going up and down our roads. So when you look at lessons learned and we look at all of these types of things, there was an incident that happened at a fire department out of state where there was a wreck with a EV vehicle. Now, they went in and extricated the patients, and I'm talking about the rescuers. There were 5 rescuers. They went in and extricated the patient. At some point after the extrication where the patient was removed from the vehicle, okay, one of the batteries started burning off. And so they were in a situation where it wasn't a fire to begin with. They didn't have their SCBAs on. They somehow got into that plume, and 4 of those 5 that were at that scene will not ever go back to work because of lung issues, because they did breathe the stuff in and things like that. So this isn't all the way new. We face it every single day from a response perspective. Should something happen in an EV car, these cars are being charged in garages throughout our community, I'm sure. If for whatever reason they get a runaway, the first thing we've got to do is try to get the car out, because we can't put it out. It's just going to continue to burn inside the structure. So our best bet is to pull those out and let them burn while we work on the rest of the house. So it's not necessarily all the way. We have had vehicle EV vehicle fires previously here in Gillespie County. So it's not all new technology, but we're learning every single day. There are some communities who will take a dumpster where they are literally, because these things can go out and then 20 minutes later can catch back on fire. Like going down the road on a wrecker. Those are some of the things that we've heard. So some communities are basically getting dumpsters, putting these vehicles into these dumpsters and filling them with water just to try to extinguish them. And in one case, it burned for 4 more days inside water.
So Chief, Gary Saucier. Chief, what I heard basically is there isn't any real information coming from the state level or a national level to provide you guys training. Of the 1,000-ish that are planned, how many of these BESs already exist, and do any of the communities where they might exist have a more detailed plan of how they would react?
The answer to that is yes. So we learn from other people, and the areas that we seem to find where these incidences have occurred, a lot of those have been in California, and so we will go over those videos, we will talk about it internally, and we will continue to learn like we have with new technology and new things that have come out. I've been in the fire service a long time, and when they threw hazmat onto the fire department, everybody's going like, what is this? You know, now there's specialized training, there are certifications for hazmat, and so it will take a while, in my opinion, for the training to kind of catch up with where we eventually need to be to handle these situations.
Yeah, George Studer. I have a question because the whole incentive here seems to be money, and we need to make it less profitable for these companies to do what they're doing. And to say, well, we have the capability, we know what the capability is to fight these things with our suits or training or whatever, and say, drop it there. I think we should fight back with what the costs are going to be and lead time. Like, if there's 1,000 of these things out there, what's the lead time on these suits? And would you allow it to be put in place and active without adequate number of suits to cover X number of days, so many shifts, so many people? You know, you say, okay, maybe it takes 8 guys in suits to fight a fire, and it lasts 5 days, and so that means this number of suits, and the lead time of those suits is 2 years or whatever it is, and you got to have money for that lead time. I mean, it just seems like our whole pushback, should also include finances and lead time. What do you think about that?
So when you say just order a bunch of suits, it's really not that easy because we have different sized people in our organization. We have large people, we have skinny people, we have medium people, so these are actually suits that we measure each individual as they come into the organization. So the answer I would have to give you at this point is that we are moving towards having 2 sets of gear for every responder, okay? So if we face that now, if we get a structure fire, we have to wash that gear. So we have to actually put it into a wash machine, we have to get the particulates out of it. And so that's how we are handling that with our responders in Fredericksburg, is we will issue two sets of gear to every responder eventually. We're not there right now, but we're working towards it.
But you got to throw these away.
Yeah.
I mean, the difference is now you're going to have much more throwaway to fight a fire that...
Potentially. If a situation occurs. Yes. Yeah.
LeeAnn,
Yes.
how do you put a price or a cost on air and water? I mean, you got this crap out in the air that's going to be there forever. You're going to have this stuff in the water. How do you? Oh, I don't need that, Shelley.
Leslie.
You're welcome. So how do you put a price on that? There's got to be a better way than these lithium-ion batteries. You see it all, and you hear about it all the time, where people plug in these lithium-ion bikes, all of a sudden these suckers are on fire. They can't put the dang thing out. I don't know. It just, to me, seems like a bad idea that they could come up with something else. If they want to put up solar panels or something like that, put up solar panels in the parking lots of Walmarts and H-E-B and all this other stuff, and have storage right there. You don't have to have transmission lines or anything like that going through all this property. To me, there's ideas out there that should be addressed before they put up these big storage units there, and nobody can put the damn things out. Like you said, if they had to put it in a tank and it burned for 4 days in a tank of water, that's horrible. My 2 cents.
Chief Eric Hammerson,
Yes,
thanks
sir.
very much for you doing all of the work to try and figure out how to be able to cope with these things. You mentioned that if your responders are inside the smoke plume, you end up having to dispose of their protective gear. I presume that if the smoke plume goes over the Harper School, they're going to have to tear the building down and start from scratch again in a different location because the ground will be contaminated. Is that correct?
That's correct. I mean, that potential is there. If they were able to get out quick enough, and if there's an evacuation plan and an emergency response plan to get them out as quick as possible, that would be the key.
You can't evacuate the structure. You can get the people.
No, I mean, there are potential long-term effects from the smoke that comes to the ground, because they're finding products in California from an incident in the soil 6 months later. They're finding some contaminants in it.
That's the circumstances. If there was a contamination over the school, somebody else got out okay, it would disrupt things for
A long time, yes.
They wouldn't go back.
Yeah, well, there would have to be a remediation done after that.
And that would involve people's houses too.
Yeah,
In the community.
I'm sure.
So as y'all can tell, there are just so many unknowns with this, and these are all great questions, and this is the reason it's become such a controversial topic. So I know the county has hired a third party, I guess it's an engineer team, to review any plans they receive, somebody who specializes in these things. I don't know if they have experience in California with facilities that are on the ground, but again, all great questions. We share these concerns. Chief, thank you for that. Again, this presentation is going to be given to the council, so I don't want this to just drag on. Again, all good questions. Does anybody else have a question or major concern that hasn't been touched on?
We have one right.
Okay.
What is the company's responsibility for financially for any kind of remediation?
I can't answer that.
Yeah, again, this is a hazmat situation potentially, and so just like Chief said, these have potential to occur any day. So from a fire and EMS perspective, they need to be prepared to respond.
Right.
The financial impacts, that's why we're going to be talking about it with the city council. As Chief said, we are not the main entity responding, at least at this point. It will be the rural departments, which is concerning, because like you said, these are volunteers. They will receive training, but that can only go so far. So.
Just so you sort of get that.
Bill?
Yeah. The assumption that I'm hearing here, that there is the danger of a rip-roaring fire. First responders are getting out there. You've got a fully involved structure. I'm just wondering, what can we do on the prevention side right now as far as the building codes. You got it. The company wants to build this battery storage facility. Okay, how can you build it so that everything is isolated? Learn where the fire starts. What are the points of origin of these fires? Any history that we have. So that it started as a trash can in somebody's office and end up spreading. And it spread because the interior structure was all wood instead of fireproof materials. I think there's a lot of upfront planning before you ever turn any dirt to make sure that nothing can happen, that you've got the right fire suppression system in place, that you have the abilities totally alarmed. So I think there's a lot of things that can be done right up front before you ever...
So you're right. Unfortunately, in the county, there aren't the same regulations as in the city limits. And that's why they're going into these counties, these unincorporated areas. As far as preventing the spread, that is the key. Like right now, as Chief said, you can't put them out. So as far as a response, it's addressing the plume and trying to prevent it from spreading and containing it.
Yeah, have it contained so there never is a plume. You've isolated that fire in the trash can that started in somebody's office that spread into the whole facility, so that you can keep it and isolate it right there to that trash can. It never gets past the trash can.
That's what we've read is they don't want these facility operators, they don't want their whole facility to go up in flames either. Of course they don't want it. So the way these are designed, they're basically Connex boxes and they're separate compartments. Those are designed where if one fails and starts on fire, it's intended to be contained within that one unit. And so, again, yes. So, again, we share your concerns. I know the county's trying to do all they can. I know Fbg.Live is covering those meetings. I think they had one yesterday again. So, again, just know we're trying to do all we can. Again, trying to work with the school districts as well, because there is a concern, especially with the Harper facility being nearby the school. So.
Is NFPA doing any research on this?
Yes, and
so there should be some results there.
As Garrett mentioned, they will have to be built to a standard, an NFPA standard of some sort, and that will be regulated by the county fire marshal as far as the actual facilities, the design, all of the things that you're asking will be up front and will be gone. Should one of these come in, that would be the process. That the county fire marshal would make sure that they adhere to all of those standards that there are out there that we can use in the county.
And why not change some of the building codes today?
There are no building codes in the county.
That changes every 5 years.
Yeah.
Is it on? My name is Rosemary Estenson. I happen to live in Harper. My grandchildren go to that school there. This facility, folks, is exactly 3 to 4 minutes from Harper. I have walked it. LCRA was out there the other day and they put up a big pole to connect. I slowed down, I got out of my car, I took the license plates on every friggin' car from LCRA. I'd like to write them a note and say, is it all about money, boys, or are you just doing, do you know what could happen? There's over 600 students and employees at Harper. 3 minutes. It's 22 minutes away, sir. You can't even get there to help them. And I was not told that you couldn't put them out. Somebody said something else about maybe sand or chemicals, but whatever it is, if it comes from Austin or San Antonio, we've lost 600 people, and most of them are children. You can't even get out of the schoolroom in 3 minutes. Now, I have another question. How many in this room knew about all this before January? Anybody? That's pitiful. Look how many. 3. I didn't find out till February, and I don't know where I've been. Maybe I was sleeping somewhere. But somebody had to have known that this was going to happen, and Harper is not incorporated. If you look back over a lot of these smaller towns, who are they picking on? Because we have nothing to fight with on that. I mean, we have to go out and get a mayor and a police chief and this and that and the other, and we're not. So we're sort of at their mercy. In my personal opinion, and you know I always have one, it is all about money. Oh, yes, I think so. So if your children were there, and if your children, you would be as upset as I was. I don't care if they're grandchildren or great-grandchildren. I don't think this is right. I'm sorry we can't fix it, and I hope nothing ever happens where we have to come back and say, I told you so, da-da-da-da-da. All right, I'm done. Thank you for listening.
So again, this discussion will continue. Chief will give a similar report at the next council meeting. So again, a lot of passion, and we'll try to keep everybody updated. Again, check Fbg.Live. I'm sure that'll be discussed at upcoming Commissioners Court meetings as well.
Merry Christmas, everybody.
Yeah. Thank you, Chief. I'd like to ask Letty Vosick to come up and talk about Fredericksburg Citizens University. I know we have a few graduates in here. The application period for 2026 is open, so Letty will talk to you about that.
Thank you. Thank you, Garrett. So the first thing I noticed when I walked in, did y'all notice how beautiful this room looks? Isn't it beautiful? So thank you to Chris Mead and to Annette. They did this for us, so I wanted to recognize them. Citizens University, thank you. Yeah, I'm sure they appreciate that. Citizens University is now going to accept applications from county residents. So if you're interested, the last day to apply will be December the 17th. So if you're in the county and you're interested in going through the class or the classes, December 17th, the application is online. Elections. As you know, the city is going to be holding a joint election with the school district, and our election is to elect a mayor and 2 council members. The current mayor, as you know, is Gerald Hoover, and the 2 council members whose terms are up are Emily Kirchner and also Tony Klein. There has been a question that was asked of me is, how come all these folks have already filed? Because I've heard they're running for council member or mayor. No one has filed yet. The application period to file for office is not here yet. That starts in January. January the 14th to be exact. So January 14th, that's the first day anyone can come in and file. Those folks have simply announced that they're going to run for a certain office, but nobody has filed yet. The only filings that have occurred to date are filings for a campaign treasurer appointment if they are looking at changing that out or they don't have one on file. That's the first thing that anyone should do if they're going to run for office. And that you can file at any time.
Real quick, Letty, the official filings you've probably heard about are for the county positions.
That too, yes.
They start earlier because they have primaries, which occur in March, so they have to start their process earlier.
Good. Well, both. It's
county,
state and county.
Commissioners, JPs, things
and
like that.
And that deadline was day before yesterday, so that's probably part of the confusion. The other thing I wanted to mention was as far as our city elections, we have an election meeting tomorrow over at the county since we are holding a joint election with the school district. It's my understanding the school district has board members that will be on the ballot as well as a bond issue. And if there are any questions, I'm happy to answer them now. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Letty. Before we go around the room for more questions, I did want to talk about the Coffee with City Manager schedule for next year. You mind pulling, or is it? It's on your tables. You may have noticed that. So generally, we're holding to the same Wednesday. The current plan is to hold it in the same room. Once the new City Hall is open, we probably will have a session there. I'd like to give you a completion date for that. It's probably looking like the March timeframe now. The lead times for some of the construction materials has been pushed back, so it's delaying the project. But as far as topics go, again, we're open to ideas y'all might have or special requests. We did line up Scott Fair with the appraisal district for March. That's something we heard at the last coffee. We'll also reach out to Create Healthy in the hospital to see if they can present sometime next year. We're trying to reschedule Judge Jones with the county. He was scheduled to be here last month. He had to cancel last minute, but we will try to get him here as well, and I'm sure he can touch on the best projects. Any other ideas y'all have or requests? I know the school district is trying to find a new superintendent at this point, and with the bond proposition, we'll probably try to have them out maybe in the April-May timeframe as well. So, okay. Need to touch on anything else, Sean? Can you think of anything? Okay. With that, we will go around the room. Sean, if you don't mind, if you can start with this gentleman.
How's it going, guys? Thanks for doing this. My name is Alex Stranger. I own and operate a pedicab here in town, Freddycab, Texas. I've been a pedicab driver before coming here. I've done this job in Austin for about 12 years, and you know, I want to start off by saying that the last thing I want to do is turn this place into Austin. You know, it's been an amazing city. It's really weird living in a place where the police actually do their job. So it's super awesome. Haven't seen a homeless guy go to the bathroom on Main Street once since I've been here. So that's another plus. But in all seriousness, I do want to talk about why I think this is a great city to operate this business. And also, I want to be involved in, I do know that eventually there are going to be certain rules and regulations that the city winds up coming up with. And as somebody, I've done this for almost an entire year. We've done everything we could to we've obeyed every single traffic law. We've been very cooperative with law enforcement. We've had a great relationship with all of the bars and with all the restaurants. All the rides that we charge are entirely off of tips. So everybody who pays me, they pay according to how much they enjoy the experience. And we feel like we're an extension of your vacation versus a product that, you know, we're pitching to. It's a culture that I want to keep here. And I want to be involved in the process. Like I don't want the market to get oversaturated. And I want to be involved in the process to make sure that, you know, right now I own and operate 3 cabs. I think that's a perfect number of bikes to have in operation, maybe 2 more while the city grows. But I don't think that more than 5 bikes should be operational at any point in Fredericksburg, because like I said, you don't want to saturate the market. You don't want to turn this place into Austin. And I know that while the city grows, opportunities like this are also going to grow, and I want to be involved in facilitating it so that this becomes something sustainable and long-lasting. I also noticed that there's a rule in the code about capacity limits, which is a good thing because you don't want to overfill your cabs and create danger for your customers. But that being said, I looked at the code and some of the rules were set up in like 2014. Before they've made like advancements on some of these pedicabs. You know, like one of the rules says that you can't have more than 4 people on your bike, which is totally fair and understandable. I have a U-shaped one of the bikes I own is a U-Sheet bike that seats 6 people comfortably. And so I think that maybe revisiting some of the capacity limits depending on the bike you have would be a good thing to talk about in the future. And then one last thing. While working here, I noticed that there's the traffic light when you go up Llano Street by Bucks. That light stops operating around 9 or 10 p.m. approximately, where it doesn't, it just winds up flashing. I think that just as somebody who works in transportation, even if you're like an Uber driver, even if you're walking down the street to go to Bucks, because you're on a back road, because there's still a problem with people driving drunk, which, I'm lucky that we're able to sort of mitigate that by getting people home safely so they don't drive their car. But that being said, I do think that light should be fully operational going up Llano Street towards Bucks at every single time of the day, just because I do feel like that's an accident waiting to happen for pedestrians, for drivers, for everybody alike, and I think that's a pretty easy fix to do. And so thank you all for embracing me as a part of the community. Thank you guys for letting me operate. Being here, I'm not just being hyperbolic. Being here, it is an actual blessing from God to be able to work here instead of having to work in Austin. I want to, my girlfriend and I, we have our first kid due at the end of the year. This is how I want to feed my family. This is a place I want to be able to work for the next 20, 30 years or so. It's a company that I want to build, and it's a company that I want to really build to scale and grow with how the city's growing. And I want to be involved in how we can do this sustainably and grow in a way that's both profitable and responsible for everybody in the city. So thank y'all for having me and letting me speak.
Well, thank you for being here. The city council did discuss rideshare cabs, petty cabs, horse-drawn carriages at a special call meeting a couple months ago, or maybe it was last month. They're going to be talking about some potential changes at the January 6th council meeting. So if you could, please try to attend that. Yeah, do you know what they're going to address? Not offhand. No, I mean, I know PD is looking at the ordinance, potential updates. So things like you mentioned with the limitations on passengers. And then just a quick update with the signal. I know TxDOT is doing a citywide traffic signal study. That was supposed to have been completed in September, but I think at last report they had the results. They were still analyzing them. So I don't have a time frame of when those changes would be implemented, but you should start seeing some changes to the signal timing, hopefully in the next couple months. So.
Okay. Yeah, because this is the way we've been operating too. It's I know that there's very lack of regulation, but I've been trying to make my
Sure.
I make sure they submit a driving record, and I make sure that my drivers have clean driving records, no violent criminal convictions, no recent convictions.
And that's part of it. Just with Uber now, just getting into random cars, just making sure it's a safe environment.
Yeah, and like I said, we could talk permitting, like permitting costs, because let's
talk after.
We could talk after. Yeah, sure. I don't want to monopolize or hog the meeting or anything.
I just want to make sure everybody has time. So.
Yeah, for sure. Okay.
Thank you.
Good morning, everybody. Full disclosure, my name is Leslie Canese. My better half is sitting right over there.
Better
not
wave,
facing
Chris.
me. Full disclosure, I just want y'all to know who I am. I am a realtor here with Texas Hills Realty in town, and I'm just coming in here to eavesdrop. I want to know what the community's concerns are, what the risks are of this whole thing in Harper that everybody loves. It's unfortunate. So I'm just kind of here to listen in and hear what you guys are saying. So thank you guys for doing this.
Thanks for being here.
John McManus, City. I have a question. It seems to me that we have a lot more airplanes flying overhead than we did maybe 5 years ago. Is that true, or is that just my imagination?
It's true. I feel like the FBO is reporting that they're breaking records with fuel sales. Bobby is on the airport board. What's the formal name? Advisory board. So yes, things are hopping over there.
Hi, I'm Bobby Watson. I'm on the airport advisory board, and yes, things are hopping. There's 2 new hangars under construction currently, possibility of 1 more. There's another construction project about to start in the airport business park, and the last 3 years, the FBO has set records on fuel sales. So, yes, there. Oh, and thanks, Bill. The Lady Bird jet has just started service here. They're in the very beginning stages, so they're doing not scheduled, but semi-scheduled service to Addison, which is Dallas.
And I will say the city and county are having discussions about the long-term plan for the airport.
Yeah.
You know, what is the goal? Right now it's entirely operated by the county. They work closely with Tex.Aviation, so we don't have much say at this point, but we just kind of want to know what the plan is.
Yeah, and the airport's doing great and continuing to grow, so.
Brenda Cole, I'm a resident. I'd like to know what the capacity for residents to attend a council meeting, how many do you allow or set up for?
I think currently we have about 72 seats, but we do have overflow capacity. Again, we're in our interim council chambers right now. So in the new council chambers, I think it's going to be set up for about 80 seats. Typically, we can add chairs along the edges, but the plan would be, if we have a large meeting, is either relocate it to a larger facility or have overflow space in the community room. So it would be broadcast into that separate room, but we are making accommodations, I think, for up to I think the plan was up to 150 or 175 people. Again, if we know it's going to be a large meeting in the past, we've gone to the FISD auditorium or some other facility. Sure.
Leo Tynan again, a resident in the county, and this my comment and question is addressed to Andrea with the Parks Department. Are there any plans or considerations for rewilding parts of the areas of Lady Bird Park beyond, just the pollinator garden and the nature center? Looking out over this beautiful park, which is very well maintained, beautiful job, but there's a lot of very barren, open areas, mowed down to the bone, isolated trees that are not in good shape. If you look, a lot of the riparian areas along the creeks are thick and beautiful with healthy tree regrowth. It seems like there might be a lot of areas that over the course of maybe 10 years, with part of a plan, could be restored to the native woodland and prairie that was here when the settlers first came. Yeah.
We can certainly look into that. We don't have any specific plans right now outside of the Friends of the Fredericksburg Nature Center are trying to raise funds to build a nature center over there, and all of that area that's right across from park headquarters would be created into a native grasses, native savanna, native plants would be in that area. We actually met with them earlier this week, just past park headquarters in the parking lot. There's a little area, they've just recently planted some trees. We're gonna build a berm there. It's not much, but we're gonna expand that into a little bit more of a natural area. And we can start working on a plan for the next 10 years.
Yeah. It seems like there could be some really large areas, where you could still mow trails through.
Yeah. There's a huge potential out here. We'd love to have some trails along the creek where they're more in the natural area that run along the creek and people can be down by the water. So that's what I really like to see. Okay, thank you.
And I will say it's part of a grander plan, but we had a sediment survey done on the entire creek through the park, from the dam upstream, to determine how much sediment has built up over the years. Unfortunately, I think in some spots it's 5 to 6 feet thick. So we put together some rough numbers. We're working with an engineering firm of what it would take to dredge out the creek. Like Andrea said, the goal would be to bring it back to what it was when the dam was first built and build trails around that. So again, that's a long-term plan. I think we ran some rough numbers and it was 3 or 4 million, 4 million. So we're looking into grant opportunities for that.
And you can maybe spread it out over a number of years, and
yes.
You can sure cut your mowing bills.
Good point. Yes, sir.
Okay, George Studer. Yesterday, I listened to the meetings about your strategic planning, and a couple questions. First, was the OpenGov application pretty much approved that you're going to go ahead and put in OpenGov and start using it for the management of all the different
there wasn't
things?
any formal approval. That's what we'd like to do. So we'd have to put together the plan first, and that would be input into the OpenGov system.
Oh, okay.
So that's
you're
part
not,
of the process.
Okay.
Krista reported that we already have that capability. We're paying for it currently, so we might as well use it.
Okay, so that would be part of the plan presented in in April to be effective later the next fiscal year.
Again, I think the plan would be prepared and then imported into the system.
For the following fiscal year?
Correct.
Yeah, okay. And I was thinking about that also in terms of strategic plan for the whole community. And it seems like it's geared towards the management of the city tasks that are funded, as opposed to a strategic plan that looks at the status of the actual community itself, the developments, the schools, the churches, the infrastructure, the residents, and the visitors, and so from a strategic planning process, it seemed like it was only focused on city resources as opposed to looking at the entire area. What's the health of the area or risks? And so I wondered if you could comment on that, whether that's
I would say that is the main focus, because that's what the city is tasked with, and that's what's funded. Now, if there's a high priority from a community standpoint, with fire and EMS or something that, hospital services, that could be on that list. It would just be noted that we're just a small part of this discussion. And again,
okay, so then when I asked
this is long-term planning, and ultimately it all goes back to budgets.
So when I asked the question about medical services, it was Clinton said, "No, we're not concerned with anything about medical."
And that's that's not what he said.
Well, okay, what did he say?
Well, he's not saying that's not important. That's just the city. That's not a primary role of the city to provide medical services.
No, not to provide it.
We can be involved in that discussion. That's a political discussion. But we don't care. I mean, we care about medical services.
Medical services is deemed critical infrastructure. And the city and the county have to work together to make sure that the whole community has that critical infrastructure, and it's okay. But we don't really want to status that at this point. We status other things, but not that. And so we just lost our only urologist. He's going out of business in the middle of January, and we've lost other things. When we hear from the hospital, we'll probably only hear about the hospital. If we hear from Create Healthy, we're only going to hear from what Create Healthy Management is doing in wellness. You're not going to hear about medical services across the community, which is critical infrastructure. So that's my only point.
I guess so. What is your request? Would you like us to try to get Peterson and some of the other providers here? I know you're working with the county, so maybe Judge Jones can speak to this when he comes.
Yes.
Okay. So we'll make sure he touches on that point as well. But again, we care about medical services, especially when fire and EMS, when they pick somebody up, they've got to have a spot to take someone. So.
Morning, everyone. I'm Cheryl Rowan. I'm part of the Gillespie County Historical Society. I put a rack card on your table. I'm also on the book festival committee that's bringing our second annual author book festival to Fredericksburg on January 17th. It's a completely free event. Check it out. Hope you come.
Thanks for doing that. Any other questions? Well, thank you all again. I hope you have a Merry Christmas and Happy New Year. Take care.
Community in Fredericksburg is growing, and we know that people choose to live here, and for very good reason. It's important that we have resources in place so that people can take care of themselves, so that our economy can keep moving, so that this community can continue to thrive. And this is our opportunity to help them stay well and stay part of the community as contributing members.
Please join us in keeping Fredericksburg and Gillespie County special. Be Texas friendly. Share the road. Put litter in its place. Respect private property. And protect our dark skies. Thank you for caring about our community.